Poor boundaries or codependence? Enmeshment?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say it's true. What do you do with that?
That there are narcissists in my family, or that I'm codependent?
Either. Yeah.
Oh boy. I have to like really read up on melody. I really need to like practice what are proper boundaries. When are people crossing them? You just even trying to discern that is difficult enough.
So if you spot the boundary as a codependent, and then you call it out with a narcissist, what do you think's going to happen?
Well,
Are they going to just say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I disrespected your boundary. I will back off"? Is that what you think's going to happen?
probably not.
So if you spend all your time recognizing boundaries and then learning to call it out, when you finally get the chance to do it fast enough to a narcissist, probably not going to work.
Yikes.
But
Guess that would be time to
find. You just attack them, right? You counterattack.
Well, she hasn't been practicing counterattacks. She's been practicing just stating a boundary, was it?
One step at a time. There's still hope.
No, it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
I'll put a link to my old boundary meeting. April 2020.
Yeah, I remember.
Or you weren't around for that, but last meeting we talked, or 2 meetings ago, was about state management. That also had some elements. You have to tolerate emotional intensity. If you can't tolerate that, you just go into reaction mode. So it doesn't matter what tools you memorize. You have to be able to stand the heat of your emotions and other people's emotions. Otherwise, you're just going to react. You're just going to do the same thing. Then you're going to judge yourself more because now you have all these steps that you should have done, that you failed.
When you said that at the last meeting, that really sat heavy on me. I was like, wow, yeah. When I realized that I was reverting back, I thought I had all the knowledge and I was reverting back. Would you say cold state when we get into the thick of things? In my first,
that's a hot state. Right now, you're in a cold state right now.
Being with your therapist. Yeah. So I had an encounter and I just immediately was like, okay, you know what? F it, I'm out. I didn't even try to do as you say and talk and ask questions and count. I just shut down.
Remove yourself. Well, yeah.
Ran away.
Yeah.
Associate.
Oops.
Sign you probably need to leave the situation entirely.
Oh.
I vote for Grey Rock.
See here.
What'd you say? Go for Grey Rock?
I vote for Grey Rock.
Yeah, well, I did go for Grey Rock and Deef told me that I can't use that forever. Deef said I had to engage.
Right, that's a stalling while you prepare your attack.
It's a stalling tactic, yes.
Yeah, stalling.
But it's not a destination.
But it works so wonderfully. And I just love the impact that I have on my narcissist when I ignore his ass. I just love it because it just tears him up. And I'm just like, doo-doo-doo.
Doo-doo-doo.
That's not bad. If it works. But now that you have him pissed off, or you got him chasing, can you up your game to try to direct his attention? Or
no.
Yeah.
Because he knows the games and tricks for when we have conversations to easily trigger me, and I get angry and I start to try to the insincere conversation. I keep trying to have conversations, and then I keep remembering, oh, this is insincere. He's not listening to a word I'm saying. Let me stop talking. So no, I still haven't learned to direct conversations so that I'm, what'd you say, not running away, but that I'm on offense and not on defense.
You're engaging. Offense is better, but you're active instead of passive.
Yeah, I have no other option. There's kids, and now that the world is opening back up, there's events, there's swim teams, and there's all kinds of events that we have to attend. And so, whereas COVID was horrible for everybody else, it was a blessing for me because I got to stay away all from everybody and all that interaction. And now his side is a big family, and though they are very loving and still welcoming to me, I still don't want to interact with any of them. So, yeah.
That sort of cold shoulder might be a more adaptive gray rock. So if you're able to modulate the amount of gray rock depending on the situation, then it's more adaptive. Some people do gray rock where they just put their head in the sand.
Okay, so what do you mean? What do I modulate? The conversation?
If you can modulate, there's a lot of nonverbals that go on with gray rock or not talking, silent treatment, right?
Uh-huh.
So you can amplify the nonverbals, or you can tweak the nonverbals to get certain messages across.
Oh no, I'm very good at that. Oh, I do that well. Yeah, it's just yeah. But it's just I'm over there laughing and smiling and looking like I'm having a great time with everybody else, and I can see it pisses him off because I have no conversation for him. But no, it's when I have to engage with him, I lose the control in the things I've learned.
So what are his buttons, or what are his tactics that get into your underneath your skin? What are your buttons that?
The tactics are trying to just engage me. He's done everything. First, it was trying to engage me in conversations. First, it was the woe is me, and then it was then got angry and oh, we need to talk about the kids. It's always something that he wants to try to engage conversation and just get attention. And because I'm giving none, and I only want to communicate, I was able to only communicate through text. It worked, beautifully. Yes, no, bye, go. So, now I have to
in person
maintain my expression, maintain my composure, maintain my stand. It's a lot.
Sometimes in boxing, there's like this, you want to get out of the person's range, or you want to get to you want to get into a safe range or a side range so they can't knock you out. But at the same time, you want to keep the opponent in a position where you can knock them out. So it's a position battle, or footwork. They sometimes call that footwork. So texting has that natural distance, so they can't get to you. In person, they sort of have maybe more familiarity on how to get into your defenses.
Yeah.
But you have footwork just like they have footwork. So theoretically, you can counter by moving also, or moving them, or guiding their attention. That's maybe what we'll try to do with today's topic of powerful questions or questioning. Welcome, Nia Khan. Welcome, Adria.
Hello.
Hey, what's up, y'all? What's up?
It's hot. Is it hot outside? Is it still hot?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's hot as shit.
It's hot as shit.
Yeah. I had to work outside, so
Oh.
I'm well done. Medium rare.
Medium rare. Beautiful. So how do we teach people questions?
Yeah.
Debbie, you're not good at asking questions?
Once I get started, I am.
Mm-hmm.
But to get started is where I have a problem. You know why I think I'm not, because I see in court how they attack when they ask questions, and I feel I'm going to come off as being attacking them.
So
I'm afraid to be
perceived as attacking.
Right. I don't want to, I guess I carry that with me and thinking, oh, he's attacking him. I don't want to appear to be attacking somebody.
Because
but then I would scare them away. I would scare them.
Do you have any history of that?
No.
But you're worried that if you just start potentially asking a question, the person's going to just shrivel and run away? What?
Yeah, I'm actually afraid I'll offend them.
And if they're offended, they'll run away.
They'll run away. And that's the abandonment thing.
And how long have you known this?
Right now, about asking questions?
That you're scared of people shrinking and running away, and it triggers your abandonment, terror, blah, 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 all this stuff.
Well, right now I made that
link.
That link right now, that the questioning would scare them away and the abandonment wound is wide open.
So now you made the link, and what do you think of that realization?
It's kind of stupid. I mean...
Which part? All of it? Or is there one part that's more stupider than
that they're going to shrivel? That they're going to shrivel up and actually leave.
I'm offended. Oh,
and actually the...
Fragile egos.
Actually, the narc probably wouldn't run away. He would counter back with questions.
Or ignore it. Yeah. They don't have to answer the question. That's easy. You just don't answer. You don't have to shrivel and run away.
Or do the word salad thing, right? They would...
Or they answer a different question. People do that.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? You spent all your time asking a question. This happened with yesterday's Richard Grannon. One person, Smile Belina, asked a question, and she was happy it got up there. Then Richard Grannon took the question down and went somewhere else, and then she was whining in the chat, like, oh, that wasn't the question I asked.
Oh, he did.
He has to keep up with 700 people, and he's pre-associating, so the questions, they're hard to answer, because he's not going back and forth to clarify the question. He's not thinking about it, just whatever comes to mind.
Yeah. I mean, I also looked at that list of all the questions you posted.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that's a lot of questions.
And what did you think? They were scary? You could just do the 7, you know. What's on your mind? What else?
But it's deep thought. It's actually deep.
These questions. I mean, these were
those are the ones.
This is for homework. You can self-reflect on your own with these questions.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yep. So that's in the photo section to give you guys.
Yeah.
You question, challenge people. You have some prompts.
Ooh.
But Debbie, so now we've identified that you had this exaggerated fear that people were going to fall apart just under you being curious. Now you can be more brave and ask questions like, well, what are you thinking? Or you say, what do you want? You could say that to a narcissist. Then you say, thank you. And then you don't give it to them. Or you give it to them and you flood it. You sour the supply. You give it to them in a way that pisses them off.
Yeah. That was a stupid fear. Oh my gosh. I can't believe.
And how did I get there? How did we get there? To your stupid fear.
I think you asked a question.
I asked questions and I stayed there. I just dug a little, stayed curious. You benefited. I benefited. The group benefited. So win-win-win.
When? Yeah.
You didn't fail and fall apart and run away under the stress of being questioned. You seem fairly relaxed, right?
Right. Yeah. I just always feared it. I didn't want to appear like a bully.
Oh, bullying is one step up. So you have to first learn how to question. Then you gotta learn how to have loaded questions and leading questions and presumptions and accusations embedded in your questions to attack a person. That's a different level of questioning.
Yes, and you have to stay in that intensity that we spoke about. I think it was last week or the week before.
Oh, the state. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
You don't need to. There's nothing to attack. Or you don't want to attack. Or do you want to attack? Is that the issue?
I don't want to attack.
Now, Adri is a natural questioner. I think she's has an easier time. Why is it easy for her and hard for you, Debbie?
Because of the abandonment wound. I guess that came out.
Adria disagrees.
No.
Or agrees.
Yeah, no, I don't ask people questions. I ask them if you tell me, like, attack this person, then I can ask the questions. But I have many people in my life that I'm recently like getting information from because I don't ask questions. Yeah.
Oh, Adria. Yeah. On prompt, she'll ask questions and attack somebody, but normally she's just passive or polite or not curious. Muted.
I'll be interested, but I'll feel like that's overstepping a boundary or something. Whereas another friend and just meet them and then come and tell me like, "Oh, he just divorced his ex-wife. Oh, you know this and this happened." I'm like, you don't even know this person. How do you know all this? Because they ask. I try not to like be in people's business, I guess.
Overstepping a boundary. Maybe that's a common belief system. Debbie, were you worried about stepping over a boundary by asking questions?
No, it was the abandonment. It was they would shrivel up and leave, or they would get mad and leave.
They would get mad and leave. Have you ever had someone that you wanted to leave? That you were annoyed by? I can't stand this person.
Yes.
For those people, did you allow yourself to ask questions to try to get them away?
I actually gray rocked.
Oh, you used gray rock.
Yeah.
Did that work?
Yeah.
Oh. You said, "You're dead to me." Okay. That's good. That works too. Have you ever been under the onslaught of questioning and you didn't know how to get out?
Yes, a tactic I learned in court, repeat the question out loud. Somebody asks you a question and you don't have an answer and you're feeling overwhelmed. In court, they actually tell the person to just say that question out loud, and it gives them time to kind of calm down.
Stall and also pay attention to the question. Sure.
Yeah.
Good tactic.
That's a lawyer tactic that they use. And
oh, yes, that's an interesting thing. So you're watching professional questioners, professional interrogators, or unfair questioners. That's their job. So you can see the live action, but you haven't been able to digest or copy in your real life.
No, because I'm afraid they'll shrivel up, like you said, or they'll get mad. And I just figured out, I'm just afraid that they're going to leave and think I'm this bad person, and they're just going to leave.
So it's like you need a practice to just try to get people to leave. Actively try to piss people off and then see how many people don't even notice.
I actually pissed off a lot of people this week. Nobody left.
Did they run away? They didn't leave. How did you piss people off?
Well, the AC is not operating. It's operating at work at 55%. And I found a cool space upstairs, and I told them, when the courtroom calls, call me upstairs. And they got mad that I was just leaving them all and going upstairs. And then I went upstairs in this judge's boardroom, and there's people in there, and they got mad that I actually sat in there. And I don't know why, but they got mad.
They got mad and you didn't leave?
No, because it was the only air-conditioned spot in the whole building that I felt cool.
Yes, so your comfort mattered, and you claimed your space and you didn't move. That's like setting a boundary or invading somebody else's boundary, is it?
Yeah, that's true. I invaded their boundary.
And you didn't learn that from some book, right?
No.
How'd that happen? So did we go through this roadmap of identify the goal? So she wanted to get this gig, right? So we tried to clarify how much did she want it, the reach, blah, blah, blah. We said, what's the reality of it? What's the ideal outcome? Then we went to, what are your options? So her option she thought up of buying shoes and getting the confidence vibe, but then we added some other options. Pros and cons, like assess. How's that going to work? How's that not going to work? Pros and cons. Generate, assess. And then, what's the way forward? It's up to her to choose on the best actions. But we help facilitate some talking out of different options. And that's the GROW model for coaching. Does anyone do this for their own life? Debbie's a no. Or dating. Can you use this for dating? I want to date. What's the reality? What's the marketplace like? Do I need to have better photos? Blah, blah, blah. And you say, what are the options? What are the different websites I can market on? What kind of high-value women can I get? Or what kind of high-value men can I get? And then how do I set up the way forward, the strategy? And follow up. How's it working? So that being a coach would say, you want to follow up on how it's working, and then you reassess, and you just continue that. How many people's therapists go through this, something like this for you? What's your goal here? What's the reality of your goal? Instead, they just say, set boundaries, and when you say it, the narcissist will just bow down to you and worship your boundaries, because if you set it and you say it clearly, that creates magic. How realistic are therapists? Do they give you realistic options, or do they just give you fantasy?
The one who helped me get out of my marriage, she was more goal oriented, right? The goal was like to get out without getting killed. And so she, you know what I mean? She really talked to me.
Goal and without getting killed. So that's two good important things.
But it was time limited, right? She wasn't trying to be my therapist for the rest of my life. She was just like, let's work until you get out of this, and then she was gone.
Oh, that's honest too. They're not trying to keep you as a lifetime client. Yeah.
My therapist was the opposite. She was actually shocked that I followed through on what I said I was going to do. And she was like, oh my God, you really, like most people just come in here and talk, but you really like put into place what you said you were going to do. And I was like, Heifer,
yeah.
I mean, how are you helping me?
I thought you were just here to talk about ideas, not do it.
Yeah. And so then like, after that, like because finding one is so difficult. So when I continued to talk to her, it was like she kept, like you said, they reinvent your story. She would praise the efforts, which was fine, and say that you would set goals and achieve goals, but she didn't really address how to combat the issues and the concerns of what I have to keep dealing with on a weekly, monthly basis.
So you got impatient?
In a narcissistic relationship with that same cycle, right? Oh, did you try this? Come back, try that, come back. It was years ago, like 20 years ago. So yeah, some of them are.
Some of them get lost in the story, or they just want to constantly save the relationship or something. Yeah. Where to go from here? Did anyone see Richard Grannon's live yesterday? No? Okay. So I can use this to brag about myself. See if it sparks any conversation.
How do you shift that perception and start showing unconditional kindness to yourself? So Visceral Gravitas said that he felt like I said superhuman levels of self-discipline. So
haven't I said that he has autistic hyperfocus? So he read my comment. Then he pieced it together with some other observations.
Like I had superhuman levels of self-discipline. So the work I train other people to do, they can't do, but I can do. Yes. On the inner circle group thing that we had to shut down, there was a lot of people showing up there and they're like, how long do I have to be strong for? How much longer is this healing gonna? And they get really fucking angry with themselves. And I put the two things together and I was like, oh, I might have missed a trick here. So what can I do that other people might not be able to do? Is it just the self-discipline thing? And I narrowed it down to two things that I'd not spoken about before. One is...
So I got Richard Grannon questioning himself. So I got him into inquiry. by making a statement or a challenge or some video clips. It says, how am I different from my audience? So then he started reflecting. What did he come up with?
Executive function. So I went, I actually think even at my sickest, my executive function was still operating probably about 50%. I don't think the other people I'm talking, I don't think it is. I think their executive function is probably at like 20, 30%.
Maybe 10% or 5%. I think that's being generous. The way people comment on Richard Grandin's stuff shows no comprehension. They just spin off into other stuff. So 5% executive function, that might be generous.
You are operating at 20% executive function and you can't remember. You're just like looking at me going, Richard's talking. He's probably judging me. He probably thinks I'm a piece of shit.
He has such blue eyes. Or he's got wonderful hair. These are the comments that happen when he yells at people. They get distracted.
You know, and you're gone. Then this technique I showed you disappears. And if I go off into like here's the psychoanalytic concept of the superego and all these new words and blah, 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 and your executive function is 20%. Really, I'm not helping you at that point. I'm actually hurting you.
He admitted right there. He's actually hurting people if he's not assessing people's executive function and comprehension. So now he's going to change. So by challenging his view of himself and putting videos out that forces him to reflect and ask questions to himself, now his behavior, his strategy changes. That's the power of questions, or embedding questions into people.
So I do think I had an advantage. I think Visceral Gravitas is right. I think I have always had an advantage
I was right
in my CPTSD recovery. So number one was executive function. Number two, good relationship with the self. If you have a good relationship with yourself.
Look, my comment. We are not worthy. He agreed. I cut that out. But he said, yes, you guys aren't worthy. But that got him joking. You got to make this healing journey sort of fun. We can't make it all serious like that.
It's the glue that holds all the efforts to heal together. If your relationship with yourself is just appalling, like you just are merciless with self-abuse, with no sense of humor, no awareness whatsoever, you're in real trouble. So if the executive function is working, if the relationship with the self is good, you won't have this strong, like impatient and fight response, but it's a fight response delivered to the self. It's very common. It's very, very common. And I'm going to release this course. I'm going to be like, look, this is a healing catalyst, because if you do this,
some new upcoming course, we'll see if it's any good.
You will heal faster. You'll have a better relationship with your therapist. If you're reading a book, more of it will go in. If you're doing a course, you'll retain more of it. If you don't, and this part of you is hyperinflamed and your response is hyperinflamed, it's a fight response to you, you'll be very angry with yourself. You'll get pissed off with your coach or your therapist, and you'll be pissed off with the course. And then you start writing people off. You just be like, that shit, that didn't work, that didn't work, that didn't work. It's no good, man. It's no good. I think Visceral Gravitas is right. I think I have always had an advantage over people in my CPTSD recovery. So number one was executive function. Number two, good relationship with the self. Good relationship with the self.
Reactions. Any surprise? Anything new? Anything different?
I think that's what I was noticing last time when I was talking about it. It's not like he's giving good information, but I think in his mind, you know, because sometimes you'll hear him, like some of the videos, he'll get frustrated at how people keep asking, like, how do I reach your level? And he never made that separation until now, saying, hey, look, I have a different way of how I operate. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm just putting information out. Now use what you can.
on your own, because I'm assuming
Right.
the audience has decent executive function.
Right.
You assume wrong.
Right. Because it's very hard to work out. You know, people don't know that. You know, like you said, everything, especially on YouTube or, you know, videos, like when you hear these people talking, they make it seem as if you could just get up and do it. Like, oh, just do 50 push-ups a day. And like, really? You know, why not tell, you know, like it's not, that's you. You do 50 or 100 push-ups a day. Like these people, but at the same time, I feel like that's the marketing in it. Like, don't you want to be like me? You know?
Well, some people are marketing. They actually haven't done it, so they're selling the stuff. With Richard, I think he had executive function, so he's teaching what he did, but he's not reading the audience, so he's getting frustrated with the audience by giving more angles and more details, but he's overlooking something that's easy to him.
Right.
So he assumes it's easy for the audience, but until you get into the weeds and see what the audience is like.
Right.
That's the disconnect.
Because I noticed that same thing too. Like people worship him, you know, and you know they no matter how many times he says, "I'm not your daddy, I'm not coming to save you," like that's how people see him. If you read the comments, you know, people really want him to be that person. Like they worship him.
They want someone to worship.
Yeah.
So the age of the people who, what's the average age, right? Your executive functioning kind of peaks in your late 20s, right? That's when you supposedly have your full, whatever you're going to have, executive function.
Sure.
How old? Like, does he know that? Maybe it's like young girls who are like, oh my God, he's so cute. Oh my God.
I don't.
The problem is that
he's got mid-age up. I don't think it's like he's got teenagers.
His full-time job is executive function in relationship with self. The rest of us have to work. We have kids. We have commuting. We have all kinds of crap going on in our lives.
Absolutely. I agree.
Well, you look at what he's pitching. So his hand mnemonic and emotional literacy a couple times a day. Is that a complicated procedure versus some other people's 12-step complicated plans?
No, those are actually very good. They work for me, but to get to his level that he's talking about, you know, I spend all day dealing with people's crap. You know what I mean? So I don't have time to.
Yes, he lives like a monk. That was another video. So people that are immersed in complicated relationships or co-parenting or have children that are abusive, whatever, you can't isolate that. He's able to isolate, so that gives him an edge.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's another thing too. That's what I mean. Like, there are a lot of things in his life that he's not considering. It's like, imagine if I told you to paint a piece, like right now, and I showed you. I said, okay, here are some techniques that can, you know, I've been doing that since I was 5.
Did it?
You won't catch up. And I'm gonna ignore the haters in the corner. No, but that's how complicated. And again, to back up what Eric was saying, I don't think he's considering how hard this thing is for everybody else. Like, yeah, as simple as it is. You know, like some people are just discovering what he's been doing all his life, because he says he's been into philosophy, reading a lot and things like that. He's been doing that since he was young.
Well, those are the two things that he has an edge on: executive function and relationship with self. Getting him to own up his blind spots on what he has a weakness with, that's harder. It's already hard enough to get him to acknowledge that he has an upside, and that keeps his teachings landing improperly, because he's going to assume other people are like him. These two strengths, executive function, relation with self. But he might have weakness with working with others, so he might only be good at top-down, because his social skills or his group skills might be weaker. But that might mean that people here were able to collaborate or learn from each other. That's your edge. You can use that as a way to compensate for executive function limitations. Or a relationship with yourself, you can have other people that are nicer to you, and slowly you'll be nicer to yourself. So
it's interesting.
That's where we're hanging out and wandering. We're sort of using the default mode network for being positive. So for the people that remember the last meeting, we can use positive mind wandering by wandering and brainstorming to get to a bigger picture of things. And that's sort of what questioning can do. Just the state of questioning, wondering, looking at things a little differently can trigger your default mode network to wander and wonder. And then when you monitor it, you can collaborate with your salience and default mode network to see the bigger picture, to expand your context, to understand things better. To sort of, so he might have a lot of executive function of letting go of nonsense stuff. But maybe other people might have strength of mind wandering. So you want to mind wander on potential things instead of mind wandering on fantasy, on people's nonsense stories. You want to focus on something that's empowering, or how do we present this? NLP sort of has like this, you want to frame the way you see the world. You can frame your question by having assumptions that says, how do I fix myself? Or how do I fix someone else? That framing is saying the world is broken, or I'm broken, or somebody else is broken. And that framing is going to get your mind wandering to think about, to look at everything as a stigma, as a symptom, as something to fix, as something to erase. If you consider the opposite of like going, nothing's broken, everything's potential, let me see, can I use my creative resources to wonder what's the most potential I can get out of every single experience? How can I learn the most from this experience? How can I adapt better from this fuck up? So if you shift your questioning, that shifts your focus, that shifts your intention, your mind-wandering focus, and now you think about different answers. You stated the question like, how do I make this work better? Or is my therapist actually helping me? Instead of assuming like, how am I a sucky client? So a bad therapist will make sure that you're at fault. So then, then you're thinking like, I have to do better because the therapist is perfect or the school is perfect. That's the framing that protects the authority. That silences questions. But if you can stay in the question mode, the curious mode, the focus on something towards a goal, having an aim, and then how do I have a realistic goal, a goal that is matched with reality, or update your map. Neocon likes that. And after you update your map, then you can have options, and then now you have a strategy from the options that you have. And that's, you can coach other people on how to think your way through problems, or you can coach yourself. Same thing. If you want advanced coaching, you can go through this torture homework inquiry page. And just try to answer one or two of these questions a night. What is it to be powerful? What is my prevalent mood? What is choice? What is it to choose? So these are reflective type questions, a challenge to get to know yourself. What motivates me?
Chat, Steve?
I put it in the meetup photos, but I'll put it in the chat too.
I'll get it from the meetup thing.
I usually use questions intuitively. Maybe in 2 weeks I'm going to try to talk about how language works. I don't know why I keep making myself these torturous goals. But this is sort of, if you get really, it's not even advanced. It feels advanced, but it's maybe foreign. It's not, they don't teach this in therapy or personal development. They do it a little in NLP. This is just basic logic and language. Critical thinking. But it's not even critical thinking. It's just language.
Really shifted my thinking. It was called assumptions and presuppositions. And I got very, very good at hearing people's assumptions and presuppositions about when they were open their mouths. So I could hear it. So I would hear it. And that's all I need to hear. I didn't need to hear their story.
So if you get good at this, and this is more of a future pitch, because I'm in marketing, but if you get good at catching people's assumptions, then you don't need to hear the story. So if you have a narcissist that's love bombing you, or that's gaslighting you, if you can catch the assumption at the beginning, then you can disregard the rest. Then you don't need to have all the boundaries and all the other gimmicks. Because what matters is the underlying assumptions and implicit meaning underneath the words. That's usually at the beginning, or close to the beginning of intellectual debate or an attack.
So I'd let them, run out of gas when they tell a story, and I go back and ask a question that addressed their assumption. They go, "How'd you know to ask that?" Yeah. And I would be like, "Oh shit!" Now they think I'm some mystical seer, and that felt really, really fucking uncomfortable. Like, "How'd you do that?" I'm like, "Dude, well," and I would go, "Look,
it looked like magic. If someone was good at it,
all you had to do is connect with and hear their assumptions about what they were saying, and just get them to think about it differently, which they had never done." Yeah. So for you to go in with a direct question on their assumptions about what they were doing, they felt, oh, but that's what I recognized was being done to me after a while. And
Nancy and Lauren were good at that.
This is what I recognize. Like, this isn't rocket science. This is just figure out the assumptions and presupposition that are running this person's life. Right. Yeah. Like, I need this thing, and be like, well, what if you didn't need that? They go, "How'd you know to ask that?" Well, you told me when you sat down in the first 30 seconds, and then you talked. Everything was based on that assumption. That's all I had to catch. I didn't need to hear their story. Everything was based on that assumption. That's all I had to catch. I didn't need to hear their story. I didn't need to hear their story. I didn't need to hear their story.
Because we had the earlier pointer of this challenge.
There is no sincere communication with the insincere. There is no sincere communication with the insincere. There is no sincere. There is no.
So that was a start to recognize insincere conversation, but now I want to escalate to the next level. Not only do you recognize insincere communication, now I want you to figure out the implied meaning, the assumptions underneath their words, which is usually at the beginning of people's statements. Or if you keep asking questions, you can find the assumption.
That's what I do when you sick me on people, right? I'm just going underneath. Usually I don't really care enough.
Now, why don't you care enough? That's where all the fun is, people's assumptions and core beliefs.
I know it's good. Like, I'll do it on Twitters and stuff, like for fun occasionally. But like when you're interacting with people, like, do I care enough about you to care about your assumption? This is only like for coaching, right?
No. If you understand a person's assumption, you can speak their language. You can change your framing to match theirs.
If I care.
If you care about communicating better, yeah. It's lovely you have the option, or you're living in a way of life where you're like, oh, I can live and tons of people I don't have to care about their inner world or their orbit because I feel safe enough, I guess.
Steve, can you repeat that, please? You said recognize the implied meanings and then something else after that.
The assumptions underneath the communication.
Okay. Thank
so
you.
Debbie, earlier we pointed out, or we dug a little, that she had discomfort about asking questions because she thought people would run away or shrivel, fall apart. And that was part of the implied assumption. But underneath that was the abandonment terror. And then we just challenged the abandonment terror. Like, well, has it happened? Where's your evidence that if you question somebody, they're going to shrivel and fall apart and run away? And she couldn't do it. I never thought of that. And then you saw that realization happen by just challenging her assumption.
Okay.
Here's an example. Erica.
I was just going to say, for me, after being in a group for now over a year, dealing with the inner critic stuff, now I'm learning there's an outer critic. And now you can loop between inner critic and outer critic, and the outer critic comes up with all this stuff in your head that blocks you from asking the questions or, trying to figure out the implied meanings or assumptions or whatever, because you have your own insecurities or your own self-limiting beliefs or whatever that's going on inside of you. And so that pushes you away from people. Then you go back, retreat into yourself, and now you got to deal with the inner critic again. Then you go back out into the world, and then, it's a loop. So
agreed. Is that like justifying what you originally was challenging?
Yeah.
Thank you. That happens with me too. Agreed.
Yeah, you made these assumptions, these negative assumptions about the people or situation, and then you find a way to validate that in your mind, which is totally
you
not
justify
even really.
Yeah,
it's probably, you're probably way off, and now you come back and deal with the inner critic because you pushed it. You're back to isolating, and it's. I'm still learning it, but that's in the Pete Walker book on CPTSD.
An outer and an inner?
Yeah.
So how does the outer sabotage the inner? Or give me some more examples.
Creates all these narratives and has all of these views on people that they've just kind of conjured up in their head.
So the outer is still in your head, but it's focused outside. Is that the difference?
Yeah.
They're projections. So you have projecting
or whatever onto other people. Not really giving them a chance to know who they are or what they, you're not listening or you're not asking, whatever.
Oh, so this is also your default mode network going overdrive. Because the default mode network is your self-referencing network. So you're taking your projection of other people and you're trying to read their mind. Because that's your self-referencing, your default mode network. And you're projecting the worst judgments of them onto you, and then your inner critic gets more fuel from your internal projections of other people by overactive default mode network.
In my experience, what I'm seeing, even after confronting, is people would rather attack you than being vulnerable. If you listen to the podcast, one of them by Paul Colliani, it's called Love and Abuse. He has many episodes. One of them shone a light on me. They would rather attack you than being vulnerable. So you do outer critic, inner critic, just doesn't matter. It's so freaking exhausting. So I just, wherever I can, I minimize communication. I tried. I wanted to make people accountable. I tried once and I'm not repeatedly trying. It's so exhausting. It's your journey. You want to change, you change. It's none of my business to change you.
So let's start with your assumption that people would rather attack you than be vulnerable.
Yes, because
how much is that true?
Because I have proof, digital proof. If you want, I can send. because
Yes,
I
but
started doing
who's going to want to be
digital things.
vulnerable? It's not.
Right,
It's
was
human nature not to be vulnerable.
if you take accountability, you will be vulnerable. If you want to learn, if you want to learn, if you want to change,
It's a minority.
Yeah, that's true.
Tiny
That's
minority.
what I learned. Yeah, it's super tiny minority. That's what I learned.
So
I was like, oh, it was so shocking that
being
it's super
realistic
tiny
and
minority.
saying that other people most likely are going to be vulnerable, and when people are vulnerable, they're defensive, and when they're defensive and you're around them being the person that's triggering their vulnerability, then you're likely to get attacked.
No, I'm talking about his inner critic, outer critic thing. What was happening was, like, even when you confront, when they throw it back, until I heard that people will rather attack you than being well, until I realized that I believe the attack has true attack, because I don't do such things. So anyway, that's a lesson learned from me.
Well, no, that's a lesson learned, but today's lesson is more so to learn how to question all assumptions, your assumptions, other people's assumptions, and build the muscle of questioning assumptions. So when you listen to the podcast lets you question your assumption because it gave you a different framework that made sense, that landed well. Okay. But why stop there? Why not learn how to question your own assumptions without relying on a third party?
What do you mean by questioning your own assumption? That suppose I think XYZ of that person, right? So you are saying I should question, why am I thinking XYZ?
What
or why am I sleeping only on my little sliver of the mattress when I have a whole empty mattress?
Kay wasn't here for that example.
Sorry, mommy.
But that's a good example, yeah. How do we get another example for Kay?
Well, there's that Richard Grannon video that you like to show where he goes, "You got to get some spine, man," or whatever it is. That's like, you don't want to start off with that on day, the first 5 minutes with someone. You're overly defensive because you've assumed that they're going to attack you. And what I think Grannon was meaning is that wait until, you need to have the spine, then you summon it. But if you go in overly defensive into a conversation or whatever the situation is, what are you defending against? The person hasn't done anything yet.
That's a good example, or I can try to expand. That if you have these assumptions about other people, that's making you highly defensive or reactive before you have evidence.
Yeah.
Then maybe your assumptions, which could be accurate, but if you're seeing yourself overreact without evidence from this person or that person, it might be worthwhile to investigate your assumptions, dig into them, and then adjust them for reality.
Yeah.
And not just for reality, it allows you to grow and expand and learn from experience. But if you take other people's assumptions, especially self-help people, they're going to try to make you addicted to their teachings because that's how they make money. They want you to keep listening to the podcast. They want you to buy their books. It's hard not to try to create addicts in the personal development space. Even here, people will turn me into an injunction, where I'm actively trying to tell people not to use me as an injunction. But if it's temporary, it's okay. But how's it landing, Kay?
I'm still confused. You are saying don't even assume. That means you are saying just ignore or...
No, it's not about an injunction. It's about part 2. You want to stay in the state of wondering and wandering. Adaptively, being curious.
Yeah, I was in that state. Now I wanted to confront and,
Okay.
find out
Who
whether
are
my
you
assumptions
confronting?
are right.
What's the goal?
Just to update the map, whether my assumption is right or not.
What's your goal? So you want to change from wondering and wandering. You want to confront. What's your goal of confronting? Who are you confronting and what's the goal?
The goal is to know in future how to handle when they do such things, the same things. I mean.
So in the past, you felt that you got abused or you were treated unfairly. So your goal is to get better at that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So if your goal to get better, are you confronting yourself? Or are you confronting, who are you confronting now?
The party who did it to me.
Well, if you're confronting the party that did it to you in the past, are you trying to get them to acknowledge the past fight?
No, not the past. They are continuing to do it. Before I never confronted. Now I'm confronting based on the assumptions, right? Of particular statements that they are saying today. And even now, they again throw back at you.
So, let me see if I'm following. So, your goal is that you see a pattern of people abusing you. So you want to get better at that. So now you want to confront those people in reality. So that's goal to reality. And these people have a pattern of abusing you or whatever. So that's your assumption that the pattern will continue. Right? Are we following? So then what are your options? So what ideas have you come to confront them? What kind of...
No, I confronted only people whom I thought mattered in life, and I gave several chances, and they keep putting back, and now I said...
Well, wait, so how are you confronting people? Are you just setting a boundary and saying, honor my boundary?
Yes,
or what
that's
mechanism?
right. Yes, that's right.
That's your confrontation strategy?
Kind of, yes. Yeah.
Did you get that from a book? Or a podcast or something? That doesn't work against narcissists.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes, I mean, you have to update your options, because just setting a boundary and saying, and confronting them by saying, how dare you cross my boundary? They don't care, right?
Okay.
And you can escalate your anger and say, try to make them care, but they don't care. That's narcissistic behavior.
Yeah, I don't do anger unless,
yeah, but I mean, you're saving up all your anger, but they don't care about your escalation. They know how to handle that. We talked about this at the pre-meeting with Alejandra. She just started getting into books and like, oh, this book says I need to set boundaries. It doesn't work. They just ignore it. Is that what's happened? Have they listened to your confrontation and changed? Has anyone done that?
Yeah, quite a few have done it, but some haven't done it.
The worst abusers, they haven't done it, right?
Yes, that's right.
See? So it doesn't work against people who are aggressive and they don't care about crossing your boundaries. In fact, if you tell them that you cross their boundaries, they're going to say, thank you, I'm going to push harder and break that more. So you're giving them more evidence to punish you more. See, Adria's been there. Yeah. Debbie's been there. So what you're doing is actually making you more vulnerable by confronting someone who's going to take that information and punish you more.
Giving them a map.
Yes. How does that make you feel, Kat?
It's the only problem. Actually, I did the confronting and all those things because they didn't add value in any way anyways. I didn't really care continuing those relationships anyway. So it didn't really matter to me. So.
Yes, but now it sounds like it's outer critic and inner critic that's trying to justify that what you did was still okay because they didn't matter to you, whatever. This is more so trying to stay at options. So when we hang in options, we're trying to assess the pros and cons of your strategy. Did you overdo it? Can you improve better? Can we tweak it more? If we go into therapy, then they're going to say, oh, you did everything right. All those other people should have caved. They're going to just gaslight or blame a third party. They're not going to really try to get you to get better at your options. What are the pros and cons of what you did? Why did it work with some people? Why didn't it work with other people? And how do you move forward? Which is number 4. What's the way forward?
Okay. So you have the answer?
The answer to confrontation?
No, the way to move forward.
Well, the way to move forward is your goal. My guess is that you were fixated on confrontation to control the outcome. So you're fixated on the option. I would say the proper way to move forward is to stay focused on the goal. Right here. Clarify your goal. Oops. Which is to learn from each experience. To get better. To lower your goal, lower your attachment to the outcome.
That's true, yeah. So you have to now, you can't do that with the same people, so you have to find new people and apply the new learning.
I guess you could do that. That'll be a very tiring process because you keep throwing away people that didn't fit properly, and you have to make new people friends.
But what other option then?
New. Stop throwing away people. I don't have a giant pool. I'm a monk, so I don't have all these people to throw away. So.
Yeah, I get you. Then you have to have 2 surface level conversations with the same people, right? And when you see something cross boundary happens, you just
give me an example of something recent when you saw a boundary crossed.
I can't talk much. I am at home. Everybody came back. So.
Or make up an example. Where's an example where you have to call out a boundary? Or somebody in the room. I don't. If someone crosses boundary here, then I just punish them and I let them figure it out. I don't tell them what they did wrong. Why would you tell people what they did wrong? That just makes it
I'm not
fun.
telling what they did wrong. I don't tell them what they did. I mean, not to outside people. No.
No, I don't tell the person that did cross the boundary what they did wrong.
No, I don't tell either.
Okay, so how do you confront them? You just punch them? What's your strategy?
I just say, I said certain topics don't gel well with me, and
so you say, and essentially saying, please people don't talk about that. Is that sort of the gist of what you're trying to communicate?
I did it just with one person. Exactly, like, I have repeatedly told you certain topics, but I put I hit her under the belt, but I put the blame on myself, saying I'm healing, I'm not yet ready. So, unfortunately, you don't realize what you are doing. So I'm just going to maintain a distance and block you for some time.
The person doesn't realize what they're doing?
They know because they talked to me other days saying, I'm listening to this podcast, I'm listening to this, I'm trying, they are trying to be spiritual, but they just cannot go there. And, I just had enough, so.
So are you trying to keep negative people from talking too negative?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, that's you need to join a cult. They actively police negative talk, but the rest of the world, there is an active policing of negative talk. Or is there? Are there communities that actively police talk?
I don't mind the negative talk if I was getting something positive in some other way. And I evaluated in everything. I was getting 0. So I said, I don't need to breathe and take those negative thoughts. I can ignore, it's not a problem, but it takes 10, 15 minutes or some days more to detox. So I said, it's just not worth it because I'm getting 0 out of it anyway. So what's the point?
So let me see if I'm following the reality. So you're interacting with people and somehow you're merging with their negative energy or their vibe or their something.
I am not merging. It's just that my mind thinks, oh my God, when will they get back? I'm not able to ignore and immediately switch. My mind still thinks, and I feel even that thinking is not worth it. And to breathe and come out of it is not worth it because I'm getting 0 out of the interaction anyway. So why go through that?
You're not just getting 0, you're getting pulled down into the muck.
Yes, that's right.
So you're getting less than 0. You're getting a negative experience.
Yes.
Or maybe you're even being a scapegoat. So they're somehow able to transfer their toxic energy into you as an empty vessel.
Yes, that's right.
And this seems like a common dynamic in multiple relationships. Is this your reality?
Okay.
So one option was to confront them to say, stop dumping your toxic shit onto me, one way or another. Or you cut them off and leave them because who wants to be dumped tons of toxic shit on? Yes. Is this sort of the challenge you're dealing with?
That's right.
So 2 options. You confront them or you leave. And you've also said you tried to create distance. Is that a 3rd option?
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Okay.
They are not in my house, so it was possible.
Oh, with people that aren't in your house, you can create distance. So, I think we need to generate more options. So, what else could you try? Anybody else have any ideas? I think you should find a scapegoat and let them dump the shit on the scapegoat and then use on the side. That seems like an easy fix. But you probably don't like that.
I'm still confused by the situation.
Adria's confused. How so? Ask some more questions.
I mean, I think the confusion is that it's so general that you're not able, like, I can't gauge. Is this someone at your work? Is this your boss?
No, my brother's wife and a very close friend of 20 years. And his brother's wife, etc. So I think, shared too much in the beginning and kept putting myself down. So they are kind of not able to take the fact that now I'm sharing less and, kind of putting a boundary. They're not able to take it. So anyway, my husband is a different monster, but.
So the confrontation was around something they said in relation to your not speaking as much?
No. It was about all the negative stuff they were throwing back at me. That's it.
That they're talking behind your back?
No. Directly to me.
To you? So in front of your back?
About you or other people? What kind of negative stuff is bothering you?
One person even said, I don't know what you're trying to achieve here. I can tell you have been avoiding us and yet you expect to say, hi, this is all not true. We will just be civil from now on. Don't expect anything more. I don't like playing games. It's no-win situation with you. You don't even know what you want, okay? I'm not going to go to all the details. 1 second. You say one thing and then this is all, I think my husband has talked to them. You say one thing and next minute do or say exact opposite. You say something.
Is that true?
Hmm?
Is that true?
No. You cite something someone did eons ago. That's why I said it's a mind game and I don't engage in those mind games. I can't get through if the other person is irrational. I'm sure you are conflicted. I can sense you have so much anger. And this is all what he does to me. Okay, she hasn't even talked to me, but looks like, anyway, it doesn't matter, but I'm just saying.
So those are some examples of what people are saying to you through text.
Exactly, yeah.
That's part of the toxic stuff that they're dumping on you. Reflections about you that don't seem to connect to your view of yourself. Is that
this person only did that. The rest of the two, they don't do this type of attack. They do different
strategy, different way. This one's more direct.
Mainly, many people are trying to prove to me that, how spiritual they are. Constantly they are trying to prove to me.
Now, why are they trying to constantly prove to you their spiritual
I think
attainment? What's the motivation, and why is everyone doing this just to you? Are they doing it to everybody? Is this a common social interaction?
Because I don't know that, because I am talking about these one-on-one interactions. She's not in my town, so I don't know what she does.
How many of these people do you have in your life?
Hmm?
How many of these people you have in your life? I mean, you mentioned your husband, and then your husband.
Husband is a different monster. I can't do anything about him.
No, but I'm saying it sounds
In-laws.
like there's a lot more than just one or two people.
The husband, I realized, but his brother's wife and my brother's wife, actually, I did not know they were like that.
Mm-hmm.
I believed everything they said before. And I was trying to change.
But maybe if you're making a change currently and it's making them uncomfortable, that's not your problem right now, right? Your problem is continuing to make your change. And the longer they see the consistency in your change, perhaps that will change their opinion of you. Like, why should you have to confront them about a change that you're making that they don't believe, right? A lot of people wouldn't believe that.
No, that's not the thing. I can't go through all those things. It's first of all, people are at home, and another thing, it's all 26 years relationship. So I don't want to bore this meeting, but I am just saying, you can try new things with new people, right? The same existing people, you can only, I'm right now not in a mood to do small talks type of things. So I'm just taking a break from all those people. That's it.
Okay, but you can only control yourself. So that's what you're doing. You seem to be.
That's all. That's all.
I think part of the issue is you're trying to negotiate with no leverage.
As you said, it's hard to find new people, right?
No, when you have new people, you have equal leverage. But when you have a 20-some-year relationship where people know your history and know your buttons, confrontation does not make magic leverage. They have leverage on you.
Exactly.
So just confronting or using some gimmick from whatever does not give you leverage in a long-term relationship. It doesn't magically. You need blackmail on these people. You need leverage.
No, what I'm trying to say is I am neither interested in changing the world and nor they are providing me XYZ.
You said you don't want to be shit on, right? That's your interest. That's reasonable. But if they have leverage on you and they're used to doing it, you're still in a unfair position just saying you want to get out. They don't care. That's the reality. That's their behavior. That's why you're frustrated. Because
I think maybe my husband doesn't care, but the other, and my husband's brother's wife doesn't care, but the other two girls I confronted, I know they care. I know them very well. But
those people, you must have some more leverage on them. Yes, so then you can make them care. Or you're more equal. You're on equal footing, so then you can claim. But for the people that feel like they have leverage on you and they don't care, the reality of them dumping on you is likely to continue. Because it's a power game in their eyes. They don't care about self-help boundaries and fairness and utopia and all this other stuff. They just want someone to stomp on. Is that their behavior? Right?
I mean, it's their problem, so I mean.
No, their problem is making it your problem because they're dumping their problem onto you.
It took me time.
It's
but
your
right
problem
now,
and their problem, but they're dumping their problem on you. So you can say it's not your problem, but they're making it your problem.
Yes, it took me time, but now, I have learned to handle all these. But yeah, it took me quite some time and I went crazy. It's all fine.
That's one strategy. Go crazy. That gets people to back off.
But I don't go crazy outside of the house. I go crazy only inside of the house.
Selective crazy. That's pretty advanced. That's good.
One good thing is slowly my teenage kids are on my side. So that's again a big win.
That's learning, what do you call that? Get your own flying monkeys or counter flying monkey tactic.
Oh, they don't confront him. They are very smart. They are born here.
So how do we make sense of this? How do we turn back to the main theme? Sometimes when you're in a verbal battle, if you're still thinking about the past fights, your mind is trying to say, that was unfair 5 fights ago, blah, blah, blah. Then the person who's abusing you, they're forgotten the past fights, so they have more energy to take advantage of you now, because you're focused on a past battle. It's over to them because they succeeded in dumping their toxic stuff onto you. Their goal is just to win again. That's their motivation. Not many therapists will tell you that.
And yeah, those learnings are fine. I'm just asking, what is the tool you are giving today? That's what I'm not able to understand the tool you have given now. That's why I brought up these stories, because I'm trying to understand the tool you are giving.
Well, the mindset is to question your assumptions and your implied meaning. But then also we're trying to navigate towards a goal, towards growing. So using this model, we're trying to say, we spent time to try to clarify what your goal is. And I assessed, or it seems like my assessment was, your goal is to make things better, right? You have this long history of being abused, being dumped on, blah, blah, blah. So then I wanted to get to the reality of your situation, and part of the reality was that you have no leverage. with the people that you have 20 years, 26 years of a relationship with, I try to clarify the current situation here by asking you a question to see the current impact, determine the future implications, and I'm trying to invite self-assessment right here.
Okay.
To deal with reality, because when you listen to self-help and you listen to podcasts, they're going to sell you a fantasy. They're not going to take the time to investigate your reality because they're talking to a camera. They're going to have a lot of assumptions. So your reality, my assessment from talking to you to clarify, is you're in a situation with long-term relationships where they have leverage on you and they're used to dumping onto you as a scapegoat their toxic negativity and their junk they actively dump on you. Is that somewhat accurate to your current situation?
Not, yeah, only one with one person who does that, because the communication was too much with her. So I realized the frequency for my personality, the frequency of communication should be once a month type of deal, you know, for my personality, not too often.
So yeah, part of your strategy is you can cut back exposure, or you can leave, or you do some level of distancing. But from their point of view, they're used to using you as a scapegoat or dumping judgment or whatever. So that is likely
I'm sure they'll find somebody else.
They could find someone else if you're lucky. And sometimes I say that.
I don't care what
if you're a
they do,
codependent,
right?
go find a new codependent for your abuser, and then that raises your chance of being left alone. Yes. But if they have 20 years of using you as a scapegoat or using you as someone to dump, that tendency is likely to continue.
Yeah, but I told you they're not in the same town, so, you know, we don't meet, and phone I block, so.
They still find you. Abusers need targets. There's only so many easy scapegoats.
I don't think they're all that malignant, so.
Okay, well, so we're trying to clarify the situation, but you need actual evidence of their behavior, and that's a prediction. I can't predict it any more than you.
Watch what you say, yes.
So that's assessing the reality, and then we dive into options.
Okay.
What are realistic possible options? So you showed your options of confronting or cutting off.
Okay.
And then I think I tried to pull out some other options, like get another scapegoat, flying monkey them, or just caving and accepting it, or getting leverage on them. I recommend you get blackmail on them that are pissing you off and use it against them. That's what I recommend, but people don't. People would find that evil. So did we do some of this? Because earlier you were asking what today's topic was. So part of today's topic is to use questions to understand more. And Act 3 is about getting underneath the assumptions. So some of these questions we're trying to target your underlying assumptions. So do you see how we've gone through goal, reality, and options?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the way forward, we didn't really have enough information on a specific problem, so we had to address it abstractly because you weren't able to share exact details due to privacy or details, whatnot. So we had to work with that limited. Then I said, go back to the goal of trying to get better instead of trying to control other people's language or patterns, because abusers be abusers, and that's what they do.
Abusers gonna abuse.
Yeah. If you have an assumption that if you're a good person, other people are going to be a good person automatically, that assumption is probably off. Unrealistic.
Good person and all is, I mean, that's not the thing. Like, you know, I'm saying, I mean, I just like funny conversations, but They all want to, prove themselves and all those things. I don't want to talk any spirituality or anything. I do listen to a lot of stand-up comedy, like I just want funny stuff and talk and joke. I mean, that's not happening. That's what it is.
So someone who loves talking about gossip.
Yeah, I can't take that.
Trying to convert them to talk about funny, light stuff. That's a hard goal. Because that's trying to change somebody else's nature. And
yes, yeah.
That would be a poor assumption on you to think that you could persuade someone to enjoy light, fluffy stuff who has a long history of gossiping with you and very...
I can't say that every interaction with them in the past every single interaction was like this. There were a lot of good moments too, but these days those good moments are happening less and less, and they all want to prove to me they are better. That's all I'm trying to say. There were good moments in the 26 years relationship with those people, but they don't want to do that anymore.
Invest any capital in this relationship? Any extra labor? Or are you just wanting to get more of what you want?
I think I just need time, because maybe they will also cool down and change. I don't know.
They're going to magically change if you just give them time. Is that one of your assumptions?
I think the problem is my daughter getting into Ivy League made everything worse so bad. So
that created competition?
Yeah.
See? So if your daughter getting to Ivy League made them feel bad or made them want to get even, that's part of the context. That's part of the overall picture. So they might be resentful. They're resentful about that, how that makes them look or their kids look, whatever. So they're going to take it out on you.
Yeah. So
is that reasonable for them, or you don't think they should be able to? They're not allowed to be resentful?
No, that's fine. I'm saying convert it. You have younger kids too. I'm trying to give you whatever she did. I can only share, and then it's up to you to implement. Don't keep throwing on me. What can I do? I can share all the info, and then how each person converts is up to them.
Okay, so now we have something a little more specific. Maybe we could work this in, but we'll have to close a formal session sometime soon. So you have these other parents that are probably asking you for advice or tips because they want to control
They don't ask. They just make passive comments. It's complicated.
They demand it, or they judge you, or
they don't do. It's different.
So it's creating stress because your family situation, education situation of your kids has created a status level for you where you're in the spotlight, or your daughter's in the spotlight. Something like that.
Yeah, but I do not, what I can do is, in the beginning, I thought, sharing and the knowledge and everything will help people. And I slowly realizing I'm stupid. Sharing is giving them more ammunition to be unhappy. So I should shut my mouth and not share,
Have you tried sharing intentionally bad advice?
No.
Yeah, you should do that.
I never do that.
Well, you haven't yet. Try it. Why not?
I can't do that. I would rather shut up than do that.
So it could also be that your sharing is like a humble brag, right? People are like, oh, look, let me help you because you don't have what I have.
No. These are too close people. I'm not doing that.
It doesn't mean that's your intention, but
that's how they're taking it. That's why they're bragging about how they're spiritual they are, because they're perceiving that you're higher status with the education side. So they're trying to equal by trying to make you feel less spiritual to try to equalize the deficiency. because everyone's insecure. So there's tons of leverage out there that you can just pull out from thin air if you just watch other people's behavior and try to figure out what the assumptions and the implicit beliefs are. So if they're listening to you and they're thinking that you're humble bragging, even though you might not be,
I
perceiving
actually, I mean, it's not, I mean, one of the kids and all went to the same school and so many news were in the paper. So it's like, I am just like, explaining what is there. I'm not like, calling and saying, hey, look, this happened, and I'm not sharing any of the links or anything. So
we're trying to, earlier you said, did you say something like other people were trying to advertise how spiritual they are and you didn't know why?
And you did know why.
So we're giving you a theory of why they might be advertising how spiritual they are, because they're perceiving.
Oh no, I know why they are doing. Yeah.
Okay, why are they doing it?
They. I think their kids are throwing back. Nobody tells me the exact story, but like, looks like there is tension in all other houses, which I don't know because nobody tells. And I was like looking for validation for the abuse at home, and they are saying, hey, your kids are doing well, so the abuse is justified. I mean, you have to pay some, it's kind of in the sense, your life is so good, everywhere else it's working so well.
So you are guessing that there's tension in other people's homes, but you have not been there to collect the gossip, to ask them or investigate or listen to their tension or frustrations.
Little bit I'm piecing together when my brother talks to me. I mean, he doesn't tell me exactly, but I'm just piecing one thing, two things, together.
Yes, but you have not developed the social capital yourself to be in the gossip loop to learn their secret home frustrations.
Yes, I don't know exactly what happens.
But the way they're responding to you when you're talking about your home frustrations is that they're sort of envious and jealous of saying, well, at least you have these kids that have made it, so shut up about your complaints.
Yes, I have shut up, but now.
Yes, but then you're like taking their shut up towards you as toxic dumping.
No. Shut up is all over. It's like 1 year I have been struggling. First I was in depression and bipolar.
See, the thing is, it's hard to be in the state of wonder and wandering. Because you don't know what's going on in these other people's head. We've been trying to pull teeth to try to get an understanding of the larger context of other people's perspectives. And when you finally shared parts of it, you said you got it from a family member or an in-law, not from the actual person. So you're flying blind in these complex, interrelated, big family social systems. And now that you're learned some tools, now you're making more demands on the social system when you're flying blind to all the everybody else's feelings and leverage and situations. And you're now trying to demand more from other people, stressing a situation that's probably already stressed. And you sort of admitted that looks like everyone's stressed.
Yeah, I realized everyone is stressed and I don't know how to help. So I am like, at least not making it worse by, by saying anything. So even if I say she went on a trip to beach week, they are jealous. What can I do? So I decided to zip.
From a Chinese culture, from a face-saving culture, if my family is creating loss of face for other family members or other people in my social circle, in a Chinese family, I would actively make my family look worse to make those other people save face.
That's right. So I thought maybe whatever I have said about, what I'm going through, right? At least should make them feel a little better. Okay, at least she's paying some price. So, but I don't want to keep on doing that. So I don't want to call.
No,
I don't
I
want
would
to talk
make
about it.
my
It's so boring.
positive side of the family. I would try to tarnish that and make that look bad to save the face of other people. You trying to say how much you're suffering, that actually makes other people feel bad, makes other people's face lower from a collective culture standpoint. Westerners aren't going to tell you this.
Or even like offering up that accomplishment in a spiritual way might be another way of doing it.
I didn't understand.
Like, example, my family probably, if it were one of the kids, before trying to chop them down and have them ruin their, we're narcs, so that's how it works in my family. But, it would always be chalked up to, look what God did, right? It wasn't my child. Talk about how great God is and not how great the child is. And those types of things, instead of, making it a spiritual thing that God did and you are less responsible for it or something like that.
Oh, I don't personally take credit for any of that stuff.
But you have to redirect to God. The tactic is to use God as a cover.
Right, so then there's no advice for you to give.
Yes.
Because you had nothing to do with it. It was just God. That's how my mother speaks all the time.
Because this is sensitive face. They're losing face.
No,
if you don't present
all...
yourself in a way that makes you invisible, you're going to become a target. That's the game. That's how it works.
No, I know these are all very highly educated people and they also read all blogs and everything. So it's not like, I can't teach them anything. It's just that they will reach there eventually to practice. That's it.
And you need to do more research. Now, granted, you can get new friends, but you don't know the gossip chain. You're not in the loop. You have to be updated in all the behind-the-scenes stuff. Otherwise, you're going to be constantly surprised.
That's what I told you. People would
that's
rather
traditional
attack
cultures.
you than be vulnerable.
No, they're attacking because you're out of the gossip loop. If you're out of the gossip loop, you're vulnerable. Not just in Asian cultures or Indian cultures, American cultures. Deb M, she got out of the gossip loop and she's being gossiped outside of the loop. So if you aren't in the gossip loop and you're just cut yourself off, you're instantly a target for the gossip chain. That's the rules.
Yeah, that's fine. Let them, if it gives them happiness.
No, it's not that. That's not fine. You're vulnerable. You can say you're fine with it. You cut yourself off from the gossip loop and you're in a big family. You are going to be attacked. That's just the rules. You can say it's fine. You can say it doesn't bother you, but they're going to attack you. And it will bother you because attacks hurt because you're human.
Yes. The attack, the way they attack in this family, his side of family is all silence. So, I don't.
So unfortunately, we're able to get like a magic shift like we got for Debbie, and we got a little for Adria. We just got like depression for Kay. You're screwed. So, not the best thing. Adria got some tips for the job thing, but not perfect.
It's magical.
Yours was magical also, or you want magical? Only one magical thing, just for Debbie. So formal ending, since it's a weeknight, and I'm still trying to figure out weeknight energy. People are free to head out or do exciting stuff. Let's do an official ending.
That's all, folks.
And we can have a shortened after party. But
I got a lesson out of this meeting too.
aha.
My next phase: identify the assumptions underneath the communication.
Oh, you got that part. Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
That's
So
super
I'll work on
important.
that.
In 2 weeks, I'm going to try to recover that or cover that again. Implicatory statements, or I think that's the official term. So every statement we make, or most every statement, has an implied meaning. And if we can spot that in ourselves and others, we can not get triggered. Because if we're taking the bait based on the implied innuendo underneath the words, underneath the attack, if we can spot that consciously, then we can just let it go or recognize it's an attack, and then we don't have to get all defensive. But that's super high because I don't see any other narcissist survivor experts talking about that.